had to say, and there was something about not having you each come up individually, but having us join each other on stage, that each person spoke, and just knowing, Shawn, that you're not alone. I told you, who knew we were going to make so many new friends, but you are not alone. I promise you that.
Amen. Thank you to that. Thank you, thank you. I feel it, I see it, and I know I'm where I need to be.
So all of the women on the stage have chosen to walk away from the Democrat Party. And we have just been witness to RFK endorsing President Trump. He wasn't given a free opportunity to be able to run for president. And then he chose to support President Trump because he would like to make America great again and healthy again. And so, Tulsi, I'll start with you. Just give us a little bit of a snapshot of what it was like for you to make the decision to leave the Democrat Party and really some of the policies and things you're seeing now that you're very concerned about.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. We've talked a lot and heard from all of you some of the different reasons that ultimately drove me to leave the Democrat Party, but I want to expand a bit on something that you talked about, Tiffany, which is we have seen how, and I've experienced how the Democrat Party has become, no matter how much they say they're inclusive, they are very exclusive, how they force compliance and conformity, that if you don't toe the line, then not only are you not welcome, they will try to destroy you in every way, shape, or form. But that's just the first steps. Like, okay, well, that is no longer the big tent party that welcomes people from all walks of life. But what's the alternative? And this is a question that I get asked most often from people is, how do I have a conversation with either a family member, a loved one, a colleague, or friend who doesn't quite see the truth? And this is such an important point for each of us to reflect on, is how do we create a welcoming environment? How do you actually truly have a conversation where we're not just talking at someone saying, here's what's wrong, here's what's right, here's what you got to do and what we got to do, to actually listen and have empathy for wherever someone is coming from, and to get past all of the partisan talking points that are shouted at us on cable TV every day, but actually get down to these core fundamental challenges, thoughts and feelings that are visceral to us as people, as Americans, as moms or dads, as brothers or sisters, and listen and understand where people are coming from, and then share what is in your heart. And if there's one message that I hope all of you take away from me today, is don't underestimate your power and your influence as an individual. Yes, together collectively, but as an individual, think about the people in your life. Think about all the people you have. You scroll through your phone. Think about the people who may need a little bit of a nudge, or who may not be opening or widening their aperture enough to see what's really going on in our country. People who know you, who trust you, who care about you, and who you care about. Those are the conversations that we need to be having, and recognizing that, yeah, of course, we're all going to have some disagreements. I guarantee every one of us on this stage doesn't agree on every single thing. I would love to have conversations, and we should encourage those conversations. But as I mentioned earlier, fundamentally, what are the things that matter most? It is the well-being of our kids. It is the safety of our communities. It is our ability as individuals, as parents, for those of you who are parents, to be able to make the best decision that you can make for yourselves, for your kids, and for your families. And everything else comes after that. That is really what is at the core of what's at stake here. Don't underestimate your influence, your power, sharing your experiences, and opening yourself up and allowing yourselves to be vulnerable to others. Break down those barriers, because you're not going to be able to connect with people unless you're able to open up yourself. We have the ability, and this is why I'm optimistic about the path forward, is this movement is growing very quickly. We have the opportunity to unite our country in a way that has not been done for far too long. That is our opportunity. And it's not going to be done by one single person. We can't just sit back and say, okay, cool, that person is famous or well-known or they're on TV and, who's going to unite our country? Who's going to do it? We are. Every one of us in our own circles of influence, we are the ones who have the power and the ability and the opportunity to bring people together. And that is a constant choice on a daily basis and a choice to take action every day. That is how we make serious change, and it is at every single level in our country.
Thank you, Tulsi. So Tina and I wrote an open letter to American parents warning of the fact that Harris-Walz presidency is the most anti-parent, radical ticket that the Democrat Party could have put forward. Shawn, you have been standing with us on issues around parental rights, around the capture of the innocence of children that you see happening in Texas. Some thoughts on the Harris-Walz ticket? Is that something that influenced your decision?
Well, I really kind of came to my decision over time, as you know, but as people say, enough is enough. And yes, I've seen that they are unwilling to put children first. I don't believe, I'll just share something with you all. I've talked to a lot of my Democratic colleagues from the national level all the way down to the state, and privately, many of them agree with us, should I say. And I've told this story before in small settings, but I'll say it today. They came to me and said, Shawn, we get it. We know it's wrong to castrate boys. I had a Black colleague say it is wrong to castrate Black men and sterilize girls. We have a dark history of that. I said, well, then how can you support it? And he said, just hold your nose. Shawn, hold your nose and vote with us, because the party at the elite, at the top, and in this instance now it's the top of the ticket with Harris-Walz, will destroy you. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. So if we come back next session and there's a bill to cut off children's feet because they just fundamentally feel they can't have their feet, I don't want my hands, it makes me upset, would you vote for that? And he couldn't answer me. He just couldn't answer. So I really believe, Tiffany, that the reason that the top of the party all the way down is taking these positions is because people are not having the courage. They're not being brave. They don't agree. I truly believe 80% of Americans agree that it's wrong across the board on all of these issues. But they are afraid, as what we heard last night, being canceled. What happened to me? They came at me with almost spending $1 million in a state rep seat to primary me. Even though I had been a great representative passing legislation, anti-human trafficking legislation, bills to protect women from dying in childbirth, all of these issues that everyone on a bipartisan level agreed upon. But when I took that one position, that a girl who does not have cancer should not be getting a double mastectomy at the age of 12, oh my God, who would have thought that would be so controversial? So I guess I'd say that they're taking these positions because the side that wants this, the ideology, the radical side that wants this, is loud, and they're organized. But there are more of us than them. There are more of us than them.
Thank you. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Olympics. I think the world watched, Americans certainly, but the world watched a crazy opening ceremony. And then as two men, boxers, won gold medals after beating up women in a boxing ring. They were celebrated. Jen, as an athlete, some thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane, right? The thing that is never happening, it's just a small, tiny little thing. It's at the Olympics, gold medals. It's at the NCAA finals. It's at state track championships across the country. It's everywhere. There's over 700 examples in just the last few years of males beating women, taking their trophies, their prize money, team births, college scholarships, all of it. Look, sports is the tip of the iceberg. It's very visible. It's not the whole issue. We all know that. The issue is around gender ideology and the lie that underpins this thing that is happening in sports. And that lie is that if you say you're a woman, if you're a woman, trans women are women, Men can become women. No, they cannot. They cannot. This is not a right-left issue. This is just about truth. And I think that the gender ideology issue lights people on fire, lights people up, because it is the most egregious example of being told you must carry a lie. Well, I'm not going to do it. Maud talked about it. I didn't do it during COVID. I'm certainly not going to do it now. 70%, that's the number I understand to be true from the latest Gallup survey, 70% of people agree with us on this issue. It sure doesn't feel like that when you speak up on it, right? Does it feel like that? It feels like there's maybe like 2% of us. But that's why I started the brand, and not to sort of pitch it, but we have to win the cultural battle. It cannot just be about policy and legislation. If we fight it downstream on policy and legislation only, we have lost before we started. So it sounds like a really dumb, simple thing. The left owns the tools of culture. They're really good at it. Film, music, and yes, brands, which are now led and run by people of the left. And so if you can put on a t-shirt, something like this, Fight for Women's Sports, and you wear it to the soccer game every Saturday, which is what I do, and you have a conversation on the sidelines, and I tell you, every weekend, a mom leans in and she says, what does that mean? Or, oh, I've heard of that. And she says, I agree with you. And I say, because Maud's voice is in my head, then you have to say it out loud or else we're going to lose. So we have to change the cultural conversation. We have to influence the culture. They're on our side, but we need them to come out of the kitchen, stop whispering, and stand with us. And hopefully a brand can be a small part of it. That's what I know how to do. So that's what I'm going to do.
Go buy a t-shirt from Jen. The brand is amazing. So Maud, we're going to close with you because we have a big day ahead and we don't want to, we want to make sure we get everything ready for tonight. Shocking to me, you're elected in New York, right, by parents to represent them on your community education council, school board. And then you have a bureaucrat who removes you. Wild. Talk a little bit more about that. And what your experience has been like at these school board meetings, and then maybe let people in New York know you need some support there.
Is this on? Yeah, it is. It's really, really troubling. Not surprising to me because I've dealt with it for so long. But I was sitting in federal court this week, and one of my plaintiffs said something that my co-plaintiff said. There's three of us, and the case is Alexander v. Sutton. Sorry for those who are like to look up legal cases. And one of my plaintiffs, and to Tulsi, to your point about the fact that people don't always agree with each other, I don't agree with my my two plaintiffs about a lot of things. They're super strong Democrats who are not going to vote the way I'm going to vote this upcoming election. We don't agree about everything, but we do agree very, very much about the First Amendment and how important it is for parents to speak. And this co-plaintiff of mine said, you're disenfranchising Maud, because we were having a settlement conference with the judge, by removing her, of course, and that's bad and you shouldn't do it. But you're also disenfranchising every single person who voted for her. And to the point about that Jen was saying and that Shawn was saying about legislators who will tell her privately that they agree with her, the thing about running for office that's so important is if you asked parents, and hey, what do you think about Maud Maron? A lot of people go, oh, she's too radical, she's too extreme, mom's for liberty, right wing, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole list of things that I get wrong. But then they go and vote for me. And the reason that they voted for me in the school board is because I'm standing up for the kind of education we all want for our kids. And there is a big majority there of people who agree about really important things. I'm not saying, and I've lost elections. I ran for city council, I ran for Congress. Like, we have a lot of work to do, and that work starts where Jen was saying it, is by talking to people and letting them hear what you have to say. It could be about why we shouldn't be spending billions of dollars fighting, supporting a war in Ukraine when we have so many needs here at home. It doesn't always have to be about gender, about schools, about stuff. It can be about the big pictures, because there's a lot of, and those things are super important. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm just saying there's a whole world out there where you can find agreement with people. And it is really true and really remarkable to me that here we are, women who all started out, for me, I voted Democrat, like 100%, super strong. I was talking to someone last night, and I said I was a Bernie supporter, and they said, maybe you shouldn't say that. And I was like, well, okay, I'll come clean. And then, I'm not the only one up here, right? There you go. But I just think it's really important to show that people who were really committed to what I thought of as progressive values and values that I still believe in are no longer what the Democrat Party is about. And it's sad, but it's true, and you gotta face reality, and this is such an incredibly important election that we have coming up. I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but so I'll just say it now. I'm gonna vote for Donald Trump because I think he's the best candidate for our country.
Well, I just want to thank you ladies so much for joining us today. We have some really great breakout sessions that are going to be happening after this. If you liked what Maude had to say, and if you're enjoying what you're hearing, Moms for Liberty has done this all over the country. We hold town halls all over the country where we bring people together. We did one in Manhattan, and boy, did they freak out. The Manhattan Borough President, last name is Levine, he stood outside in like 25-degree weather yelling at a building with a bullhorn, and he had been invited to be on the stage. So I just tell you that that town hall sparked so much conversation in Manhattan, and just the ripple effect that we had from doing that town hall and you really getting some attention for some of the comments you made and then having the opportunity to take the stands that you've had in the way that you have been so incredibly important to changing our country. So you go to momsforliberty.org, you can see on our YouTube channel the different town halls you have. And the last thing I'll say is this. As Tina shared with you earlier, we started with $500. It costs a lot of money to do the town halls, I'm not gonna lie to you, but we know they're so incredibly important. So if you have the ability to donate to Moms for Liberty, and you feel like you wanna be part of making America great again, and healthy again, and safe again, then think about donating to us. Thank you, ladies.